This game is already dead before it's even alive. The calm before the storm. Every year there's a window. A few months of quiet before the machine wakes up. Before the trailers, before the dev diaries. Before the carefully choreographed reveal events with dramatic music and slow motion clips of a player you recognize doing something that will never happen in actual gameplay. That window is right now. FC27 hasn't dropped yet. The hype hasn't fully ignited yet. And this is honestly the best time to talk about it before the noise gets so loud that thinking clearly becomes impossible. Because once that reveal drops, rationality leaves the chat completely. People who spent the last 11 months complaining about FC26
Oh man,
will watch a 3-minute trailer and suddenly become believers again. It happens every single time. And look, I get it. The trailers are good. EA knows how to make a trailer. They've had decades of practice. But we're in the calm right now. And in the calm, we can actually be honest about what's coming. So let's talk about FC27. Not the version EA is going to sell us. The version that's actually going to show up. The pattern that never breaks here is the thing that nobody in the marketing department will ever put in a press release. FC27 is already mostly finished, has been for a while. The broad strokes of what this game is going to be were locked in months ago, probably before most people even stopped playing FC26 properly. That's not a conspiracy theory, that's just how annual release cycles work. You have a massive development team, you have a fixed release window, you have a sales target, you have a live service infrastructure that needs to keep running while the next version gets built. The amount of fundamental change you can introduce in that window is genuinely limited. Not because the developers aren't talented, many of them clearly are, but because the structure doesn't allow for it. So what actually changes between versions? Rosters, obviously, updated player ratings, some visual improvements, because graphical fidelity does genuinely march forward every year and EA has the budget to keep up with it. Some tweaks to mechanics that were loudly complained about, maybe a new feature in one of the modes that gets announced as a headline edition and then quietly forgotten by November. And that's roughly it. That's FC27. That's been FC every year for the better part of a decade. The number goes up. The game stays roughly the same. The cycle resets. What the comments are already saying. The fascinating thing is that the conversation around FC27 has already started and the game isn't even out yet. People are already skeptical, already asking the questions that will define the discourse once it drops. One thing that keeps coming up is competition, or the absolute lack of it. When EA is the only serious product in the market, the pressure to genuinely innovate disappears almost entirely. PES used to be that pressure. For a real stretch of time, Pro Evolution Soccer was the better football game. Better ball physics, smarter AI, a feel on the pitch that actually resembled football rather than a very pretty approximation of it. Then PS lost the licensing war and slowly the casual audience drifted away because casual players want their actual team in the actual kit, in the actual stadium. And then PS became eFootball, which launched in a state so catastrophically broken that it became a meme that lasted years. Players sliding around like the pitch was made of ice. Goalkeepers with the spatial awareness of a traffic cone. It was a fucking disaster and EA barely had to lift a finger. So here we are. FC27 enters a market where it has no real competition. And a product with no real competition has no real reason to take risks. Simple as that. The gameplay promises that are coming in a few months, EA is going to make promises. Specific, detailed, enthusiastically presented promises about how FC27 plays.
And come together to experience avatar-based collective play, both competitive and casual.
And some of those promises are going to sound really compelling. They always do. They'll talk about new AI systems. They'll use phrases like next generation movement and authentic football intelligence and something about physics that makes it sound like they've rebuilt the entire engine from the ground up. There will be numbers, graphs, probably percentages showing improvement across various metrics. And here's what I want you to hold on to when that happens. Write it down if you have to. Control demos are not the same as the game you will actually play. The reveal trailer is built around the best possible version of the game, performing its most impressive moments. That's not deception exactly, but it's not the full picture either. Because the full picture includes your striker running directly away from a through ball that was perfectly timed. The full picture includes defenders standing completely passive while an attacker strolls past them like they're on a pleasant Sunday walk, and the defenders are just tourists who don't want to get involved. The full picture includes skill moves that have never been performed by any professional footballer in the history of the sport, being spammed in Division 4 rivals because they're mechanically broken and everyone knows it. These things have persisted across multiple versions of this game, not because EA can't fix them, because fixing them isn't the priority. Releasing on schedule is the priority. Keeping Ultimate Team running is the priority. Actually, overhauling the defensive AI is a problem for a version that will never quite arrive. The mode that runs everything. Let's talk about Ultimate Team, because you cannot have an honest conversation about FC27 without talking about Ultimate Team. This is the engine. This is what the whole machine is built around. Everything else in the game, career mode, pro clubs, the various other offerings, exists to some degree in the shadow of this one mode. And Ultimate Team is a genuinely brilliant piece of design in the most morally complicated way imaginable. The loop is almost perfectly constructed to keep you engaged and spending. You open packs, you get disappointing pulls, you keep going because the next one might be different. You build a squad, you play against someone whose squad is so far beyond yours that the game feels tilted before kickoff. You wonder if spending a bit more would close that gap. Sometimes it does, briefly. Then the gap opens again. Several countries have already started looking at whether pack mechanics constitute gambling. The regulatory pressure is real and it's growing. If that pressure expands significantly before FC27 launches, and it's worth watching, it could force EA to restructure a system they've spent 15 years perfecting. That would be genuinely interesting. That would actually change something. But until that happens, the mode continues exactly as designed. And it will be an FC27, probably with some new card types and a slightly reshuffled seasonal structure, and it will generate an enormous amount of money, and that money will confirm that the approach was correct and nothing fundamental will change. The stupid cycle continues. The graphics trap is coming back. Prepare yourself, because in a few months, EA is going to show you something that looks absolutely incredible. I mean that sincerely. The player likenesses are going to be stunning. The stadium atmospheres are going to feel alive. The lighting on a rainy evening match is going to look genuinely cinematic. Someone is going to post a screenshot and it's going to be almost indistinguishable from a broadcast camera shot. And it's going to be very tempting to let that visual quality do the work of convincing you the game has fundamentally improved. That's the trap. That's always been the trap. There is a generation of players, probably late 20s to late 30s now, who talk about certain PES versions with genuine reverence. Not because of how they looked fine for their era, nothing more, but because of how they felt. The weight of the ball, the difference between a composed pass and a panicked one. The way defending required actual positioning and thought rather than just pressing a button and hoping. Those games felt like football, really felt like it. FC27 is going to look more like football than any game that has ever existed. Whether it feels like football is a completely separate question that no trailer can answer. You'll only know once you're in a game in the second half, chasing an equalizer, and you need your team to actually behave like a football team. That's when you find out. A few months out, here is where we actually stand. So here's the honest picture right now. With FC27 still a few months from release, the hype is warming up but hasn't hit full temperature yet. The skepticism is high because FC26 did not deliver on its promises in the ways that mattered most to actual players. The question of competition is as bleak as it's ever been. The regulatory pressure on pack mechanics is the most genuinely interesting wild card in the whole situation. What could actually make FC27 different? real competition emerging, which remains unlikely in the short term. Meaningful regulatory change forcing a rethink of the monetization structure, or EA making a genuine decision, not a PR decision, not a marketing decision, but an actual product decision to fix the defensive AI, to address the unrealistic skill move, to make the game reward football knowledge rather than pack investment. Any of those things could happen. The chances of all of them happening in a single release cycle are, let's be diplomatic, not high. The wait and see crowd will wait. The skeptics will stay skeptical. The people who enjoy the game regardless will keep enjoying it. And honestly, good for them. And somewhere in EA's offices, someone is putting the finishing touches on the reveal trailer, picking the most perfect clips, choosing the music, preparing the graphs. It's gonna look amazing. It always does. The question you need to be asking yourself right now, while it's still quiet before the noise takes over, is whether looking amazing is enough. Based on everything we know, probably not. But ask me again in a few months when the trailer drops and see how easy it is to stay rational. If you like watching this, you already know what to do. And if you somehow stumbled here and you're not yet subscribed, sort that out immediately. What are you doing? See you when FC27 finally shows its face.